Okay, we are back, and I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Satterfield for public forum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few reminders as we start public forum. The board respects public forum speakers. The board requests public forum speakers to address remarks to the entire board and not individual members. Each person speaking shall state his or her name and county of residence and have up to 3 minutes to make remarks unless time is extended by majority of the board. Members, let me see. The board respects and appreciates the good intentions that bring citizens to speak at public forum. The board asks that speakers show their respect to the board, the staff, and other citizens by speaking in a manner that is civil and courteous. Again, and also if you can speak directly into the mic to ensure that our interpreter is able to hear your remarks. And we will get this show started with Kristen Ashley, and you'll have, say your name and county of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Kristen Ashley, and I live here in Knox, but I'm in the Gibbs area. I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight about this important matter. And I wanted to bring it to the entire board's attention of the sexual assault situation that's going on at Gibbs Middle School right now. I have left messages, emails, and they have gone without response. So I have come in front of you tonight so that this situation gets acknowledged. And when I say that I have sent emails to Jason Myers, Carly Harrington, Lori Driver, Mike McMillan, Florence, I don't want to slaughter her name. Jai, sorry. Renee Kelly, Dr. John Razaus. He's the assistant superintendent. Ross Oakes and Mr. Bob Thomas. Those are the emails that I have sent, and they have gone unresponded. September 23rd, 4 8th grade girls have come forward of being sexually assaulted on campus by another girl. And now, as of yesterday, we are up to 8 victims, but only 7 have come forward because the other girl is too afraid to come forward. This morning, I was made aware that there is possibly another victim coming forward, and who knows how many more. These are just the 8, maybe 9 that we know of right now. The school, Candace Greer, the head principal, has not done nearly enough to ensure that these girls are safe on her campus or for future situations.
Ma'am.
Excuse me, if you can not mention names.
Oh, okay.
It's fine.
I apologize. The solution at the school is to either keep the girls in the same class but separated on 2 separate sides of the room, or to change these victims' schedules. And that is absolutely not a solution. Why is it okay for the victims to be re-victimized and nothing happening to this predator? I'm sorry for calling this child a predator, but that is what she is. In cases of school shootings and violence and of other nature, a counselor is brought in for the victims and the other students that need to, so why is this not happening now? Us parents have been given the runaround, and we feel that the situation is not being properly addressed, and I was actually threatened by Gibbs Middle School with legal action because I threatened to take my daughter out of school for her safety. On October 5th, there was a case in California of a 13-year-old boy who was arrested just on suspicions of sexually assaulting.
Thank you. We do have to end this time. Thank you so much for coming. Next, we will have David L. Sorry about that. If you can state your name and county of residence.
My name is David Lochuk, and my county is Knox County. I've been getting a lot of calls, seeing a lot of mothers and parents crying during the mandate that came out, and kids being frustrated, and parents not knowing what to do because they're back in the corner with no options. I take the word mandate to heart very strong, especially being born and raised in this town, where I've had nothing but freedom to live my life the way I see fit. I have a small speech that I would like to read. In 1986, liberty, freedom, and the American dream was pursued by a great man, putting his life on the line. Faced with death, he pushed forward through gunfire, hypothermia, and the risk of drowning while swimming in hope of escaping then communist Romania. Without knowing English or what was next, he kept faith in God and focused on giving his family freedom. That wasn't available to them or anyone during the communist regime in Romania. That great man was my dad. Today I stand here with a heavy heart. I can see the direction that these one-sided mandates can lead us to. I can see the beast that is after our freedom, but I also can see hope. As a free nation, everyone has their God-given constitutional rights to implement safety precautions for their own families and themselves, while others have the free will to do for themselves without any mandates infringing on their belief of freedom. These mandates are a slippery slope leading us all away from constitutional freedom and right into the belly of the beast. We must stand united in the constant protection of our already torn fabrics of our freedom. We need to set a precedence for our future generations. Segregating our children for standing up to protect freedom against unlawful mandates and to use them as pawns in a fight for fair freedom instead of this being a fight for adults. Dear children of our great nation, stand strong, for to stand for truth is not easy, but know you are supported and your tears weigh extremely heavy on your parents. Do not let someone tell you that standing for freedom is wrong, because our nation was built off all brave acts to stand for justice in the midst of unpopular opinion. God bless the parents who are frustrated, hurt, worried, and who have shed tears in fear of losing their constitutional rights for their children and themselves. I stand here today, united with others in the pursuit of freedom against unconstitutional mandates, and we stand for the innocence and rights of our children.
Next we'll have Kevin Hill. We have a total of 65 people signed up on public forum, and so if we can make sure we hear the names call up so we can keep it moving. Kevin Hill is next.
Kevin Hill, Knox County. Over a year ago, citizens warned you that you would be in this boat if you made the ill-informed decision to violate the constitutional rights of the students and staff of KCS. But because you did, now, instead of making the robust arguments necessary to counter this distortion of the ADA, your lawyers' hands are tied by your past actions. Had you resisted tyranny a year ago, for that's what it was, this lawsuit may have come sooner, but then you would have been able to argue the right defense, that the accommodation was too burdensome because it causes KCS to violate constitutional rights. For sure, the fault additionally lies on other people's feet, the Board of Health, the County Commission, the governor, but their bad actions didn't justify your own. The board's and so I'm here tonight. Other people are going to give you solutions. I'm here to point out another way you violate rights every meeting, like the one you just stated a second ago. The board's policy that in public forum persons are prohibited from addressing individuals or using caustic language is a violation of the First Amendment, and that has been attested to on at least 3 occasions by the U.S. Supreme Court. In Connick versus Myers, speech on public issues occupies the highest rung of the hierarchy of the First Amendment values and is entitled to special protection. In New York Times versus Sullivan, debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. Criticism of their official conduct does not lose its constitutional protection merely because it's effective criticism and hence diminishes their official reputations. And Davidson versus Randall, in the context of all alleged First Amendment violations, in particular, this court has found that a challenged action by a governmental official is fairly attributable to the state when the sole intention of the official is taking the action was to suppress speech critical of his or her conduct of official duties or fitness for public office. So I can't tell you you have ugly shoes, but I can tell you by name you do a terrible job. I would think we the people absolutely do have the right to publicly address officials, specifically by name during public meetings, no matter if you personally disapprove. You remain accountable to the public. In our current highly litigious environment, one would think the board might conduct itself a bit more prudently than these foolish policies. I can almost assure you the law department will say, well, wait until they sue. But is that truly the proper conduct of an elected official, someone who has made an oath to defend the Constitution?
Next we'll have Caitlin Jones. Caitlin Jones. Babby, you have something you would like to say?
Yes, I would like to see if the board would extend Ms. Jones the ability to speak for 5 minutes.
If we do that for her, should we not do it for other people?
Is there a second to extend, can you make a motion?
I would like to move to let Ms. Jones speak for 5 minutes. She reached out to me today and had some reasons that she would like to speak for 5 minutes, and I said I would ask the board, and it's up to the board to decide whether they want to or not. Thank you.
Is there a
I
second?
will vote no, Ms. Babb, because just because she called you today doesn't give her the right to speak longer than anybody else. I've sympathized with her, whatever her problem is, but you see what I'm talking about? If you extend it to her, why not extend it to everybody else?
Is there a
Okay,
second
we'll
for the
vote.
motion?
We'll vote.
Is there a second? Motion fails. Ms. Caitlin, you have 3 minutes.
I'm sure there is no need for me to introduce myself, as this is not my first time speaking in front of this board. In fact, I spoke to you all on September 9th, just shy of a month ago. In that speech, I explained everything that happened with Alec last year and why this board and the school system needed to be better prepared this year. I explained that Alec and other kids like him could not wear a mask or do virtual learning. In that speech, I made suggestions such as having a separate school for children with disabilities who could not wear masks and could not learn virtually. I know at least one board member listened to me then because this person personally reached out to me, which was very much appreciated. My issue is that from an outside perspective, it looks once that meeting was over, there was no action taken to get prepared. Parents like myself are finding it harder to be understanding, patient, and calm when our children are not being offered the same dignity, respect, and education as other children without disabilities. On Monday, Alec was sent home for his inability to wear a mask. I would like to ask this board, as well as any other person in this district or even in this room, that you feel that that Alec's doctors are wrong when they say Alex should be exempt from wearing a mask. If the answer is no, you do not think that they are wrong, then I would like to ask why you are choosing to follow a policy that discriminates against him and children like him. I have heard multiple people say it's a judge's order and you must follow it. I want to point out that you all must follow the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the Free Appropriate Public Education under Section 504 and the Rehabilitation Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that my son's IEP is protected under law as well. All of these laws require a school district to provide a free education to each qualified person with a disability who is in your jurisdiction, regardless of the nature or severity of the disability. While the students who filed the lawsuit were never denied their education, under this mandate, my child is being denied an education, not only could I make a case that that you are breaking these laws, I could also say that because of the nature of my son's severity and disability, that he is also being discriminated against. I'm now asking you for a reasonable accommodation and making sure that effective immediately, my son can go to school. It is no longer an acceptable answer to say that you are working on filing amendments and petitions. It is no longer an acceptable answer for staff to agree that this is wrong behind closed doors while doing nothing to change it. It is no longer acceptable to not allow children into the building who are unable to wear masks. It is no longer acceptable for children with disabilities to have their IEPs and 504s broken because your hands are tied. This is your community, this is your schools, and these children are under your protection. You are supposed to be teaching them. If you are unwilling or unable to tell Judge Greer that you will not comply with the discriminatory part of this mandate that he has passed down upon our kids with disabilities, then I ask that you turn in your resignations and allow people who will fight for children with disabilities, they will fight for children with disabilities.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
And I do want to say,
Ms. Jones, we'll have Lauren and Jericho next.
I'm not meaning to
Lauren and Jericho. Next, we'll have Ingrid Maddox. Ingrid Maddox.
Hi, thank you for having me here today. My name is Ingrid, and I am a mom of a 12-year-old daughter who is enrolled at Farragut Middle School. You may know of me or those in my circle. We have been the ones to show up every day and have consistently taken a stand to voice our First Amendment rights of grievances of the government for the mask mandate in Knox County. The mandate that was forced upon our children is unjustified, unmerited by the data, and unconstitutional. I know that you have already voted on this as our local government for a freedom of choice by the parents, as the parents know best. We are all aware it was an injunction by Judge Greer that forced this mandate. This is why I'm here to support you, to be a voice of the people, so you may hopefully create legislative change that we the people do not want a mask mandate on our children. And I hope our voice and our stand and our presence helps you make a difference in the court systems. I do understand there is legislation that is already in the works by your board to give us a reprieve from this mandate. For that, I thank you. Now, please let me share these words that keep resounding in my heart and spirit. If tomorrow all the things were gone I had worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my daughter and my husband, I'd thank the lucky stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, because there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. This is what we are fighting for. This is what we are standing for. This is what we are speaking up for freedom. I gave up about 1.5 minutes of my time to read that because I think we get very busy in our lives. It's easy to forget the freedom that has been given to us from all our heroes that served in our military. We should not forget the sacrifice that they have made for our freedoms, and we should not so easily let them be taken away from us by an overreaching government. I am a mom, I am a citizen living in the United States of America, and whatever I can do to help stand and fight for freedom, I absolutely must do so. I love my daughter, and I love our children, and I care about their future, and I care about inalienable rights. Breathing oxygen is an inalienable right. And let me close that there is a lot of disinformation and misinformation about COVID. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be made known and brought to light. The truth will come out.
Thank you, Ms. Maddox. Next, we'll have Katie Lehner. All right, is Katie here? Is that? State your name and county your residence for me.
Hello, I'm Katie Leonard, and I go to Farragut Middle School. As a student at Farragut Middle, I feel that students deserve a voice too. I'm happy to be here today discussing this topic. I believe that students should have the right to decide what goes on our body. We should not have someone force us to cover our face. And if we decide to have our own rights, we are punished and forced to comply, or else your presentness at school is unnecessary. This is unfair and unjust. The people that comply are allowed to get their education and continue school. The people that do not comply are segregated, discriminated, and ridiculed by many. Our work is placed in the office, but cannot be brought to us. This is not okay. When wearing a mask, I feel like you're silencing me, shutting out my smile, but this time we will not be silenced. We'll stand for freedom. I am aware that the school system cannot change this order unless directed by the court. Although I do feel that no one in the school system is willing to stand for the students. All the weight falls on our backs, and it's unfair. According to the Constitution, we shall not be discriminated or segregated, but that is happening daily in our school system. My body is not your puppet, Judge Greer. Having segregated rooms for students with no masks is ridiculous. We were perfectly fine 2 weeks ago, and now they treat us like we have a foreign disease. We are the people. We are future America. If we don't take a stand this time, next time our freedom will be gone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next we'll have Drew Kinmer. State your name and county your residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Drew Kinmer, Knox County. The stories you hear tonight because of this federal mask order by this judge and Governor Lee, that special session needs to be right now. Never in my adult life did I ever dream that I would see America in the shape that it is right now. I've never fathomed that we would be blatant indicators of tyranny in this country, where the government would be mandating, ordering, or threatening its citizenry into compliance if it did not follow the instructions and obliviate basic human rights and medical autonomy. It's unjust. The 10th Amendment states the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Although these clear limits to the federal government, to the federal power, are stated quite plainly in the Constitution, it is clear we continue to find ways to circumvent that. In this case, we are witnessing another example of government overreach superseding the governor's executive order against mask opt-outs, while we again find ourselves tangled in a web of confusion and with the burden again ultimately on our children. These masks are unlawful, ineffective, divisive, suppressive, harmful, and now have forever permanently impacted all of our lives at a local, state, national, and global level, because especially right now have impacted the children. If teachers are so quickly to quarantine those who will not comply with an unconstitutional order, when does it end? Parents, this is a test right now, and shall I dare say what comes after the mask? Continued compliance perpetuates this control problem into other problems later on. The mask hypocrisy is leading our children into a world that is controlled and conditioning our children, psychologically damaging our children. Let me be clear. My children and our children will not be the vessel into which some individual, school, state, or the government decides they have the moral authority over me and my child's health. I went into literature previously on the damaging effects of the toxic CO2 levels, bacteria, and oxygen deprivation. It's irreversible in a young child. We need a unity and respect for these choices, not division. You choose, I choose. You see, it's just a mask. It's just 6 feet. It's just until the cases go down. Well, Knox County, the cases have gone down. It's just to keep others from being scared. It's just until we get a vaccine. Now it's wear a mask if you've got a vaccine. It's just an app for tracing. It's just some areas. Stay away from those kids over there that are isolated in those areas. It's just for protecting others. It's just mandatory. It's just only these scientists and not those scientists. It's just the law now, and it's the law forever. It's just because of the second wave. It's just another lockdown. It will soon be better, almost 2 years later. It's just the swab. It's just for medical information. It's just a card to store your medical history for that kid's passport to enter school now. It's just so you can send your kids to school now. It's just so you can get an education now. It's just a school gym to keep you separated from others. It's just for a few more weeks or another year.
Thank you so much.
It's not just.
Next we'll have Mary Ann Eisenbaha. All right, next we'll have Helena Rego. You can state your name and county of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. I'm Helena Rigo, and I'm a Knox County resident. Is this where I pick up my FBI agents? Let's go, Brandon. I'm really trying to show grace with this situation, but now apparently showing grace is a microaggression in our beautiful woketopia of ours. I truly thank our supportive board members for their support, and we know as a whole that no one on the board or in Knox County Schools really does have control over this situation. But I am heartbroken and distraught over the lack of creativity and general thinking outside of the box in our district. It's the beginning of fall in East Tennessee, and with the exception of a couple of hours, weather has been beautiful. Why have we not taken classes, especially our special needs children's classes, outside into a breezeway? There's a solution there. One thing I know is that this is about money and funding at the heart of this issue. This isn't about a virus or masks anymore. We saw the ESSER presentation presented by Ford, and now we have a Ford megasite coming to Tennessee. What a coincidence. We know that the federal government is offering additional money for universal masking. We know that the Secretary of Education is threatening states like Tennessee for not universal masking and allowing parent choice. We know that the state of Tennessee is also pushing universal masking for money, and we know that the CDC only recommends universal masking for schools because the teachers' unions were lobbying them. Yes, this is true. Thanks to FOIA requests, we have those emails. I would like to know if Knox County Board of Education has been encouraged to change their original health plan from August 27th. We know that this needs to be resubmitted every 6 months until September 2023, so it's not really an unreasonable question. Also, no one seems to be able to answer me where I can find information on ESSER allocation in our county. Something that smells like crap about all of this, especially with the very public comments of elected leaders in our community along with activists. For me, I made a promise to my children never to force them to wear a mask ever again, and I will not break that promise to them. We cannot ask our children to suspend reality about the effectiveness of masks, because obviously if your mask works, then it doesn't matter if anybody else is wearing one, you're protected. They see the hypocrisy of people walking up to this very meeting room, maskless, stopping at the door, pulling a mask out of their bag, putting it on their face, walking into this room, standing up here and demanding universal masking. Now I have to watch my daughter's personality change, deal with her meltdowns, the eczema breaking out on her face, and the physical effects of the anxiety that she's feeling from having to wear a mask. The last question that I will present to you is, what is the number of unenrollments in KCS in the last 2 weeks? I asked my daughter to please give this situation 2 weeks before she makes a decision to leave the school system like the rest of our family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next we'll have Molly Rago. Hi, Molly, if you state your name.
Hi, my name is Molly Rago, and I live in Knox County. I'm 10 years old. I am on the VEX and Safety Patrol team. I also go to the Gifted and Talented. When my mom first told me about the judge's order, I told her I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to wear a mask. Over the weekend, I felt scared. I was nervous and scared to say no to the mask. When KCS called and canceled school, I was very relieved. Walking into school, I felt brave but nervous. Once I said no to a mask, I was put in a room with a poster that said, "Your voice matters." I spent 3 days in that room at a little kid's table by myself. I got busy work for the first day. I only got my real school work because my mom made sure of it. I was only allowed to stand up and stretch because my mom made sure of it. I was only allowed to go to recess or get a library book because my mom made sure of it. Currently, I'm learning to advocate for myself in preparation for middle school. Last week, I realized that this was first about me, but now it's about the special needs children. In isolation with me was a special needs child. I'll call him Z. Z got pulled out of the room and had to wear a mask. He said no many times, but he was still forced. With Z's condition, he gets very upset wearing a mask. The next day, he refused and was threatened to have his markers taken away. A little while later, he was taken out of a room saying, "No, I don't want to wear a mask." I want to go to homeschool, but I also need to experience with my options. Since Friday, I've been wearing a mask. It is harder to concentrate, I have headaches, and my stomach hurts. My mom has also seen changes in my attitude as well. Not good changes. Please do something about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Molly. Next we'll have Stacy Rowe. Next we'll have Stacy Rowe. You can state your name and county and residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, my name is Stacy Rowe, and I live in Knox County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. We started this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, reciting with liberty and justice for all. Liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. The superintendent declared Tuesday, September 26th, a success. I guess that depends on your definition of success. Thousands of students stayed home and 722 students were isolated. Your words, not mine. Synonyms for isolation are alone, seclusion, segregation, separateness, and solitude. Certainly, this is not how Knox County defines success. I see both masked and unmasked faces in this room, but our children do not have this choice. They can't remove their mask to speak or ask questions so that they can be heard and understood. They don't have that choice. Children must wear a mask even though the very box that contains surgical masks says, and I quote, "This is a single-use product. Please destroy after use. Recommended use time is 4 hours." When the mask is no longer tolerated, there will be a tendency to touch it often, increasing the risk of contact contamination and the risk of inhaling viral particles. When the mask is wet, its property decreases, therefore it is less breathable. The WHO says that masks can be effective if you don't touch, don't talk, don't speak loudly, or sing, if you can avoid not being hot or avoid the mask getting wet, which is exactly the opposite of what most kids are gonna do. And let's be honest, I've watched all of you adults in here touching your masks all night too. Masks have been added as part of the EUA, which expressly states that persons must give willful consent and understand the risks and must have the right to refuse without complication or punishment. Have children been given the right to refuse without complication or punishment? No. No, they have not. They have been forced into compliance. COVID poses almost no risk to our children at all. Mask or no mask, they are still going to catch COVID and they are still going to recover at a rate of 99.992%. And 100% here in Knox County, thank God. You need to get back to your mission of providing excellent and accessible learning opportunities that empower all students to realize their full potential. Stop the nonsensical madness. None of this is reasonable accommodation. Our government and its laws are not a guide to human decency and morality. History has shown us this time and time again. You cannot look me in the eye and give me any lawful, moral, or scientific reason that 722 students were isolated and denied their education. If our elected officials cannot stand up for our liberty, then who can? Is it a question of can't or won't? The bottom line is masks are illegal. They were illegal last year and they're illegal now. Segregation is illegal. Denying education is illegal.
Thank you so much. State your name and county residence. You have 3
Sure, I'm
minutes.
Andrea Feaster. I'm at Knox County. I would ask you guys to just give me just a little bit of grace. I stutter, but after seeing what these kids had to go through this past week, I will be uncomfortable for 3 minutes. Okay? So I had a whole speech written. I hit my wall today. I reread what Greer said. So if anybody wants to give him a message, please do. We don't care what we complied to last year. We were trying to be nice. We were trying to get along. That is over. As well as when he said, we will get in trouble if our kids don't go to school. Let me explain to you, we do not care. We do not care. We are done. We want you guys to help us, tell us how we can help you. You cannot imagine all of these stories we hear every day. We got to say the pledge tonight, right? Not our kids in segregation. It's not isolation. It's segregation. That's illegal. Since 1964, that's been illegal in the United States of America. We have to say it in front of the school, or they don't get to say it at all. Our kids do not get any kind of work. If they do, it's nothing. They have had to re-mask themselves in mesh masks, some, to get an education. This is not okay. This is not America. And if you, please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next we'll have Brianna Plott. Next we'll have Brianna Plott. You can state your name, county residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
My name's Brianna Plott, and I am in Knox County School District. I have 2 kids in KCS, one with a disability and one without. I have concerns of staph infection on my child without a disability while wearing a mask due to skin issues, among other health issues. I've got concerns with him. With my child with a disability, he has a very rare form of muscular dystrophy, which when wearing a mask causes undue stress on the lungs and heart, makes it difficult for him to breathe. No one's disabilities or health concerns should be considered devalued next to anybody else's. They are all equal. Under the 14th Amendment, my children have the rights to bodily autonomy, due process, and a right to equal education, which is all being denied as of right now. Even with exemptions, my child's privacy is invaded. With exemptions, every person in the school will know of a child's disability, even if it is not noticeable at first glance. This puts a target on their back for bullying, not just from other children, but from administration as well, as which you have heard. Privacy, which is supposed to be protected under FERPA and the PPRA, which gives rights for privacy and confidentiality. The only way to make this fair and equal is by giving choice. Otherwise, we end up with an even worse issue of bullying we have ever seen in our lifetime. And let's face it, the bullying policy is a joke. Otherwise, the bullies, both child and administration, would have been put in check over their behavior, especially in the past week. Luckily, I can say at my child's school, the administration has not been an issue, but I know many others, again, who have. So far, my kids are being punished and sent to ALE, which is just another name for in-school suspension. My kids are not even allowed to be around their classmates, even when their classmates aren't wearing masks, examples such as lunch and recess. If this doesn't change, many others, as well as myself, will have to be forced to pull our kids from Knox County schools, in which a lot of us would prefer not to. Please help us fight against this, and I thank the ones of you who have helped. I really do, and I really appreciate it. But we need to fight harder. That federal judge does not rule over other federal laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll have Matthew Osgood. You can state your name, county of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Matthew Osgood. I live in Knox County. I have 4 children in the Knox County school system. My oldest, who is 17, is a senior at South Doyle High School and has been in isolation without proper instruction since September 28. I am here today to discuss her treatment by staff while being held in solitary confinement. On day 1, she was not allowed to use the restroom unless she agreed to put on a mask. She was also told that her parents should find her alternative schooling if she was going to continue to refuse to wear a mask. She was refused entry into the Young campus and escorted to the main campus with a resource officer as if she were a criminal, where she received no instruction for the day. She was told by assistant principal that it would be up to her teachers if she would receive any assignments. On day 2, my wife received a phone call from the assistant principal, advised that my child needed to be picked up due to her refusal to wear a mask. She proceeded to tell my wife that my child could be arrested for contempt, for breaking the law. That doesn't exist. No administrator in that position should be threatening to have a child arrested for simply exercising their right to breathe freely. Is it the position of this board that this behavior is acceptable from an assistant principal employed by KCS? On day 3, I received a call from the school, and I was told that my child could be removed from my custody by DCS, simply for my refusal to pick her up while in solitary confinement. My child has been poorly treated since the start of this nonsense. She has experienced public shaming from students in person and on social media. She also has been shamed by certain staff members in front of other students where she refuses to comply. She has been called a liar by certain office staff and a racist by some students. She has experienced depression due to the lack of student and teacher interaction by being segregated in a room with the blinds and the doors shut as if she is a prisoner. She has gone without lunch twice during this time and has counted absent while being physically present. I don't have a lot of time, but the child in question I have adopted, she lost her parents due to drug situation. She was adopted by my mother. She watched my mother die in front of her. I mean, I don't know how much trauma, a child can experience, but I really don't understand all this, tactics by school members based off of a face mask that works no better than a chain link fence stops a fart.
Next we'll have Megan Wood. Please state your name, county, or residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Megan Wood, Knox County. Thank you for the opportunity to address the community on the matter of discrimination against children with disabilities that is occurring in Knox County. I think we all can agree that this federally imposed mask mandate has become quite divisive. Some oppose it, some embrace it, and some are oblivious to the harmful effects of the federal mask mandate. I'd like to share how Judge Greer's lack of foresight is affecting my family. This is a lyric from the song Revolutionary. Let's take some time, open our eyes, look and listen, and we're gonna find that we're more alike than we are different. October is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and more alike than different is one of the slogans advocates use. I am not just an occasional rabble-rouser, as the plaintiffs mislead you to believe. I am, in fact, an advocate for my child. I have a daughter with Down syndrome. She's 8, and she's in 2nd grade, and her name is Leah. Leah has Down syndrome and is developmentally delayed, which grants her eligibility for an individualized education plan under IDEA and is further protected by the ADA, which prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. Yet the judge handed down a federal mandate that is egregiously discriminatory. Now my family knows what discrimination feels like. Leah has attended Farragut Primary School since 2018 with an individualized education plan, or IEP. Her IEP team must include parents, teachers, special education specialists, a school representative, and usually includes therapists. In short, this plan is a written legal document that requires the student to receive the agreed-upon special education services in the least restrictive environment based on her individual specialized needs with reasonable accommodations or modifications. Last year, Leah was afforded reasonable accommodations for the mask mandate that was in place. She attempted to comply with the mask mandate. In fact, we tried very hard to comply. This year, Leah has missed 8 school days thus far since the judge's unlawful and unjust mandate, which is in direct violation of the IDEA and ADA. Leah has not been granted safe and appropriate access to her school. Why? Because she has a disability which the judge does not deem eligible for reasonable accommodations, even though the law clearly states Leah's disability is eligible for such? Since when is a federal judge part of an IEP team decision? In my mind, this is all Judge Greer's doing, and that's where I rest my grievances. Where are the checks and balances? With his unreasonable ruling, he put a screeching halt to what was a very successful start to the school year for my second grade daughter. We love our school, and I can't wait till she is allowed to take her rightful place in the classroom. I want to thank KCBOE's defense teams, David Sanders and Amanda Morse, for recognizing this discrimination and filing for a stay. I want to ask you, if you care about this, call Judge Greer's office, demand he uphold the law, and stop discriminating against children with disabilities. Ask him to listen to Knox County's motion to stay the preliminary injunction pending appeal.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Maggie Noe. Maggie Noe.
I'm Maggie Noe, and I'm from Knox County. This is my first time speaking here. Now I have a vested interest of a kindergartner. I want to say thank you to those who have worked really hard over the last 18 months. I also want to recognize the hundreds, even thousands, of students with disabilities that aren't on the two. I want to say I see you. I see you in the grocery store. I see you as my client. I see you in this room. I see you in the schools. I see you. I'm going to ask the board, do you see them in the next months, hopefully not even years or days? Will you see them? Will you see those other students who are struggling? Will you fight for them? I will continue to fight for the one in my home, in my family, in this room, in the grocery store. But will you continue to fight for them? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Hillary Godsey. All right, next we'll have Bill Taylor. All right, you can state your name, county of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm William Taylor, Knox County. Some courageous stories here. This is incredible. At the peak of COVID in schools on August 30th, there were 923 active school cases. September 27th, the day that this mandate went in order, in effect, 214 cases. That's a decline of 77%, with nobody wearing masks or required to wear masks, all on its own. I've been accused of intimidating kids by walking my own kids up to school carrying a flag. I've had people come up to me and say, "Why are you intimidating our children? They're afraid to go to school." Meanwhile, as I stand outside with my children, F you, go get a job. Who's intimidating who? That's ridiculous that we should be subjected to that for walking peacefully, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, carrying a flag. At the beginning of the September 9th hearing, Judge Greer lays out the court rules. This is ridiculous. And he says to everybody, the rule allows everyone to remove their mask while speaking, and that makes it easier for the court reporter to get a clear record of this. The plaintiff's attorney comes up and speaks, "COVID can be spread through droplets that are coming out of my mouth as I speak. So that's why we must have a mask mandate." Do you hear the insanity and how ridiculous that is? What about our kids who need to be able to communicate with their teachers? Don't they have the same need to communicate with their teachers and vice versa? Why is it just the judge and the attorneys? Amen. I've spoken to several Farragut administrators where my kids are. Every single one of them said that it's impossible to enforce this. You know what? Shame on them. You know why? Because, sure, every time I hear it, oh, it's the judge's order. Fair enough. But you have control, Mr. Principal, Mr. Bartlett, of controlling your campus. And the hypocrisy, it oozes hypocrisy. When my kid who comes to the front door and is asked if she's going to wear a mask, honestly says, "No, I don't believe in wearing a mask," and is sent to isolation like you've heard. Meanwhile, the rest of the school is not wearing a mask. I have a video, 1-minute video of the Farragut Commons ground. 38 students are in this video, 34 of them had no mask on, and nobody says anything to them. Shame on you, school. Shame on you. Hypocrisy. And Mr. Bartlett wrote me an email saying that he's sorry that if it seems inconsistent, we're working on that. At this point, I will take just over the mouth. That is contempt of court, and nobody's holding him responsible for it, but our kids that are honest are punished for it. That has to end.
Thank you. Next we'll have Hannah Taylor. Next we'll have Hannah Taylor. Next we'll have Kimberly Parks. Kimberly Parks. If you state your name and county residence, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Kimberly Parks, Knox County, District 5. I had like this, my computer's not even booting up. I had this really great speech prepared for y'all, but a lot of the people here have already said everything I was going to say. But one of the things that I don't get is that our children are not affected by COVID-19. They're not. We've had 0 deaths here in Knox County. And I had a thing in my speech that, so influenza in 2018 killed 643 children. 7 of them were in Knox County. COVID-19, and only and that's 8 months. Flu season's about 8 months, right? And right now, as of yesterday, COVID-19, 21 months in, has killed 637 children, and 0 of them are in Knox County. So COVID-19 has killed less, and, well, I'm sorry. So the flu took what took the flu 8 months to do, it took COVID-19 21 months to do. Let that sink in, guys. That's all I got. Thanks.
So next we have Amanda Leake, and then after that, Tina Shields and Elizabeth Chan. And if you'll please state your name and county of residence.
My name is Amanda Leake. I'm from Knox County. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight for my student and others. I attended last week's meeting, and after statements made that they were happy to see so many complying and thinking students were largely okay with masks, I knew I needed to speak up for my student and so many others. Students, staff, and teachers had their choice taken away simply because so many were not wearing one, unlike those that always had a choice to mask. We are in this situation due to parents, 4 students, their lawyers, and 1 federal judge. Why did they get a chance to stay home and do online, and we were not? That was offered last year. It's not offered this year. That's not fair. It's not equal. The burden of those that are for mass choice and autonomy over their bodies is much greater. Again, not equal. Kids, staff, and teachers have been segregated or sent home until they comply. Not equal. Those for mass choice are being bullied, threatened, and punished until they comply. Again, not equal. My student was told by a staff member in her class that you could be suspended if you were in isolation, segregation, for more than 2 days. Not true, but nobody told the students it wasn't true, and I haven't heard from the principal. What about all the students that want their grades not to suffer for affecting their college future? They cannot participate or access to in-person learning until they comply. Not equal. Not one student, staff, or teacher wanting to mask was ever segregated, sent home, denied in-person learning, or had to choose not to mask for their extracurricular activities or fair for grades. Not equal. I moved here from California. Having my child's education held hostage for an agenda is not right. If we do not have a mask choice, we lose autonomy over our bodies, and the vaccination mandate for public education is next. It's happened. My last school board promised to stand up for parents and choice for students' choice. Then they accepted federal funding that stripped with strings attached that took our rights away. Please tell me I'm not going to see that happen again here in Knox County. Until our community changes and learns to love and allow others to live their best life the way they want, I do not see a bright future for us or our children. Thank you for your time.
Tina Shields. Please state your name and county of residence.
My name's Tina Shields, and I'm in Knox County. I have several points to make, so I'll be brief on each one. Number one, Judge Greer's statement that we complied last year, so masks were a reasonable accommodation, is what has put us in this situation of being required to resist. We are here today because we didn't push hard enough last year, and it's being used against us. We also know more just how harmful the masks have been to our children. Number two, the inconsistency with which schools are handling unmasked children is unacceptable. They are getting zero instruction and are not even being allowed to speak, let alone help each other on the assigned work. And mine is lucky to be getting the assigned work. Most schools aren't even doing that. My child hasn't been bullied personally, but has witnessed a staff member putting their face inches from other students and yelling at them to pull their mask all the way up. Number three, my son with special needs was outed last Tuesday for having autism, a diagnosis he does not have, when he was allowed to go maskless. On Wednesday, when they decided he had to wear one and he refused, he was sent to isolation with nothing to do and no support. This is very confusing to him and illegal. He barely speaks in a mask. He is a mouth breather, and the mask gets sucked into his mouth. He loves school and his friends, so he has given up his ability to speak in order to be with them. He should never have to make that either-or decision. My other two high school sons want to attend a service academy and serve our country and protect our rights and freedoms. In order to do this and maintain the grades they need in their all honors, AP, and IB curriculum, they cannot protest and go to isolation, otherwise known as segregation, because they will get zero instruction and be counted absent in every class despite being counted present at school. The Air Force Academy will not say, "Oh, you got a B because you were standing for your constitutional rights. We'll excuse it." That's not how it works. So in order to defend us and fight for our rights when they are grown, they are not able to do so now. There is something inherently wrong in that situation. Number five, while taking my mother to the doctor Monday, I was informed by the nurse who I was just chatting with that their company policy is 0 mask exemptions. So every patient of this huge physicians group has no recourse regardless of their reasons. I am happy to see that you are fighting the treating physician requirement for exemption. 6, there must be changes to protect all children. All children should be given the same treatment and access to assignments and instruction. Teachers and staff who are bullying, shaming, and even forcibly applying masks to children and refusing access to education should be dealt with harshly and with no question as to what your expectations are. There should also be 0 instruction of any student at any age in any way regarding masks or compliance. No writing prompts, coloring pages, songs, discussions, etc. Teach them what they need to learn. We understand that most of you are fighting for us, and we appreciate it. We need you to continue to stand for our freedom, pursue justice, and make...
Next is Elizabeth Chan, and then Rebecca Rice. Please state your name and county of residence.
My name is Elizabeth Chan in Knox County. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I remember when I was little, my grandparents would share with me the stories of escaping from communism. They uprooted their families and moved to Hong Kong, which was a British colony at the time, in their pursuit of freedom. They lost pretty much everything in the process and arrived in a village where refugees lived after they arrived in Hong Kong. As the time passed and approaching the time that Hong Kong was going to be handed back to China by the British government, my parents decided to apply for us to move to the United States in our pursuit for continued freedom for our family. The whole process took 10 years. It was a few months before our big move to the US that the Tiananmen Square protests broke out. I remember watching the protesters on TV, which was they were calling for democracy, free speech, and free press. The image that resonated with me the most was this brave individual who stood alone and blocked several military tanks. I was deeply heartbroken to see what was happening, and it made me think about the price people are willing to pay to obtain freedom. He has since been known as the Tank Man. We have been blessed with the freedom since we moved here, but in recent months, I noticed changes. Our freedom has been affected. With the latest mandate that came about, we decided that we need to stand up and speak out. We are not anti-mask. We are pro-freedom of choice. My children chose not to comply with the mask mandate. They were denied access to the school building and therefore denied education. They went without masks again on the second day, and as far as I know, they were the only 2 students who did not comply that day. They were denied entry and education again. In a figurative manner, I saw the image of the tank man again in my mind, except that this time, my kids are the tank man. Figuratively, the tanks are the punishments imposed by the school system with the intention to coerce my kids into submission through the denial of their education if they do not comply, and therefore impact their future negatively. We decided to withdraw them from the school system. We understand that the mandates and freedom suppressions are happening in many areas in the country, in the world. As my parents and grandparents were willing to uproot their families to pursue freedom, we are willing to do the same. However, we do not believe there is a better place that we can move to. Therefore, we decide to stand up and defend our freedom. And there are many children and families are doing the same thing. I stand here to respectfully request for Knox County School System to reconsider the punishments being imposed on the kids who choose to stand up for freedom. Children and their parents should not be punished for exercising their freedom of choice in doing what is best for them. Thank you.
Rebecca Reeves, and then Deborah Howard. Rebecca Reeves, and then next. Is it Mary Ann's the only, is it Mary Ann? Are you Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? All right. My name is Rebecca Reeves, and I live in Knox County. Tonight, I'm not going to waste any time talking about masks and the science of masks. That's normally what I do when I get up here. I talk to you about the ineffectiveness of masks, about how I have spoken to microbiologists who specialize in infectious disease, how they have confirmed with me that not only are masks ineffective, but the damage done to a growing child's developing brain is irreversible. The damage is irreversible. But it doesn't matter what I say to you today, because facts don't really matter at this point, for 2 reasons. One, there's a group of people out there that would still call me anti-science, no matter if I had a scientist come and tell you herself. Calling someone anti-science is a new bullying term that is used in 2021 for adults to bully other adults, whether it's true or not. If I don't echo what the CDC says, then I am considered anti-science. But I don't care what anyone labels me. I'm not anti-anything. I'm pro-truth and I'm pro-facts. Also, this judge has made this decision, a very cowardly decision that was made at 2:30 on a Friday. They gave no time for parents like me to make plans, parents like me who promised our kids back in the spring that they would never have to wear a mask again. Parents like me who looked my kids in the eyes and said that we would never have to watch them struggle to breathe as they got off a bus, as they sat in a class, as a teacher did not recognize them when they saw them out in public because they'd never seen them without a mask on. True story this summer. Before this judge made this decision, our case counts among children, as was said earlier, in Knox County were spiraling downward. We were way down with cases without a mask mandate. So do you think that this judge made this decision and looked at the data, looked at the facts? Do you think that he applied science? Do you think that this has to do with health? No. This reeks of politics and this reeks of corruption, and I do not cave into corruption. Adults, no matter your position, teachers, board members, parents, whoever's listening right now, stand up. These are our children, and the damage done is irreversible. And people say to me, well, Rebecca, how do I stand up? What if I lose my job? And I say there are other jobs. The entire town is hiring right now. I'll help you work on your resume. What if they find me? Send me the bill. These are our children, and the damage done is irreversible. Stand up. What if we go to jail? These are our children, and the damage done is irreversible. We are the majority, and it is time that we act like it. If just a few of us would stand, then this would stop. Stop acting. We have to stop acting like we are defeated when we hold a power that no one can take away from us. The ball is in our hands. We just have to put it into motion. Stand up. The damage done is irreversible. Thank you.
Deborah Howard, and then Hannah Taylor.
Deborah Howard, Knox County. So I'm here to speak again. Once again, it's going to be really hard to follow a lot of these parents who have very strong feelings, as I do. But I want to make sure that my comments are on public record because we don't really have any recourse with this judge at this point as the parents of the other, 60 some odd thousand kids. To the 5 members who walked toward the fire in order to end COVID restrictions on our kids, thank you for voting not once, but twice for our parental rights and our children's rights to choose. You stand for freedom, and I know that none of this right now truly is about a mask, but that's where we are right now. This is the hurdle we have right this second. If we don't do anything about this now, who knows what's next? So I know of a lot of Knox County students are suffering due to this judge's activist ruling. On behalf of 4 kids, 2 of which are not even physically present in a Knox County school, the judge and the parents of these kids are absolutely trampling on the freedom and rights that this elected board voted to protect. We fought against this tyranny for over a year and finally got that vote. Finally got to be able to, like someone said, tell their kids they didn't have to wear a mask again. My son was ecstatic that he didn't have to wear a mask again. 60,000 kids are being forced to comply in order to participate in their own lives. Comply or you will not receive an equal education. You will be isolated, you will be harassed, unable to get lunch, have recess, play your sport, sing in chorus, on and on. What will be next? I can tell you, probably vaccines, because if they don't feel safe without everyone else wearing a mask, then they won't feel safe unless everyone else gets a vaccine. That should be a choice, as well as the choice on masks. We were all kids at one time. What would you have done? Would you have been willing to stand up like these brave kids that have gotten segregated? I don't know that I would have. I think they're heroes. I think that, we have, I realize that those of us fighting for our kids might be given a label of domestic terrorist or something like that. But these kids all want freedom. They've been told if you don't comply, you can't play this sport. If you don't comply, you can't cheer. If you don't comply, you can't be on the chorus. You're not going to get to play. They're being bullied. Everyone needs to take note. Today it's the masks. Eventually it'll come to something that you feel is a good freedom for you, and you're not going to like it when your freedoms are trampled on. Thank you.
Hannah Taylor, and then after Hannah, Melissa Womack, and then Aaron Croft. Hannah Taylor.
I am Hannah Taylor, a sophomore at Farragut High School. Following the court case, I was denied public access to my classrooms and consequently denied equal access to education, all because I refused to put a piece of cloth over my mouth. I was singled out and segregated because I refused to wear a mask and participated in a protest, while the overwhelming majority of students are allowed to be inside without wearing a mask correctly. There was no equal enforcement of the mandate, but I was punished for being honest and upfront about my choice. The court case was on behalf of 4 students in Knox County whose parents demanded reasonable accommodations so their children could have public access to the school. In doing so, they imposed an unreasonable mask mandate on more than 50,000 students and denied me and over 750 other students across the county public access to our classes. I'm not anti-mask, I'm anti-mandate. I deserve the right, as do other children and parents, to choose whether I think it is beneficial or not to wear a mask given my circumstances. Last Tuesday, the first day of the mask mandate, I was denied entry into the school and had to enter through a side door. On my way to class, I noticed there were other people in the building that were not wearing masks. Before school even started, I was told to go to the office and was sent home a few minutes later. On Wednesday and Thursday, I again refused to wear a mask. When my friend and I told the front office staff that we were at school because we wanted an education, one of the ladies replied, "It's called at home," implying that we were unwelcome. We were taken to a large warehouse-type room. It was so loud in this room, I couldn't hear the lectures on my computer, even with the volume turned all the way up. We were not allowed to move the desks, we were discouraged from getting out of our seats, and everyone had to be escorted to the bathroom together. On Thursday, I took a video of the cafeteria where everyone congregates before school. More than 3/4 of the kids were maskless or were wearing them incorrectly. That day, after the assigned 25 minutes of lunch, my friend was still eating. She was told to either throw or put away her food because lunch was over. I've never seen that happen before in school. On Friday, I walked to school with the peaceful protest again. Although there were other kids inside without a mask, I was singled out and told to go back outside. That day, we were briefly taken to the noisy room, but were later moved to a conference room after a police officer inspected the conditions. After the move, we were allowed to eat, talk, we were trusted to use the bathroom without supervision. Looking back, I fully realized how a strict, unwelcoming environment made me feel punished and unproductive. This week, I went back to my classes. Being with other students has only made me more aware of how many people aren't complying with the mask mandate, and how the treatment I received last week, while being honest, was completely unfair. I respect everyone's right to choose to wear a mask. I am simply asking that that same respect be extended to me. I will end with this. If the Americans with Disabilities Act, a positive law that promotes equality, can be twisted to force a mask mandate on a county where not one child has ever died from COVID, according to the Knox County website, then what else can the government do under the veil of keeping people safe?
Next, we have Melissa Womack, and then Aaron Croft, and after Aaron Croft, Ashley Pope. If you'll please state your name and county of residence.
My name is Melissa Womack, and I live in Knox County in Powell, Tennessee. I have 3 kids in this district in 3 different middle schools. These kids, I'm not here to talk about the mask mandate because I know you guys cannot do anything about it, but you guys are in charge of these schools, and you guys can tell those schools how they need to be run and how they need to be treating these kids. That is what I'm here for. Some of these kids can't wear a mask because of mental, physical abuse that's happened to them, like my son. And some of these kids have stood up and said, I'm going to say that I'm going to defend my 14th Amendment right, that this is my body and this is my choice. It is no longer an isolation room. It is no longer a segregation. As my son puts it, it is a concentration camp that he goes to 8 hours a day, every morning. My son has been denied food, which, thank you, by the way, for those of you guys who addressed my email. I appreciate that, and I know that you guys are doing what you can do, but that should have never happened. If any parent in here had done that, CPS would have been called on them, and somebody needs to pay. My son was also denied counseling services that he was receiving before all of this mask stuff happened, and was told he would have to have a mask to go see the counselor. Why wasn't she able to get up and walk down there and see him herself? Then there's 2 groups that were in that order. Autism and anybody with a tracheotomy. I have 2 kids with autism. Let me tell you what, those kids have never had the bullying stuff that has happened to them in the last 48 hours that in their entire life. Those kids have been told that they were a wasteless sperm. Who does that? They have been singled out because they cannot wear a mask. And that is not right. It is discrimination, is exactly what they're doing. And it goes against the IDEA Act, and it goes against the ADA and the 405. It goes against everything that this Constitution stands for. My son's teacher decides to post memes every morning. And every morning, he tells me what that meme says. This morning's meme read, "Doctor, protect ones you love most from coronavirus." Me. And it showed a picture of a cat with somebody putting a mask on it. My son is the only kid in that school that does not have to wear a mask or has chosen not to wear a mask because he cannot. The fact of the matter is, you guys work for my kids and us and the people, and we can vote you out if you guys can't figure it out.
Next, we have Aaron Croft, then Ashley Poe. Please state your name and county of residence.
Hi there, my name is Erin Croft. I'm from Knox County. I may be the least fierce and least effective speaker here tonight. I'm really impressed with my community this evening. I also want to say, in light of the recent news, just to make sure it's clear, I am in no way, shape, or form a domestic terrorist. I wish no harm on any other parent, teacher, or board member. I'm here as a mom, and if that is domestic terrorism, then maybe I need to be investigated. The start of this school year, I went to my child's parent-teacher orientation day. We were so excited. It was my first day to be in her school for a whole school year. As a matter of fact, I remember commenting when we left, I met my daughter's 4th grade teacher today. I also met her 3rd grade teacher today. And what a joy it was to walk in there. I didn't know what I was walking into. But what I found is, I thought I was going to see a lot more people masked up, whether it was parents, teachers, students. I was really surprised how few had a mask on. And then I asked my daughter after her first week of school, I said, "Babe, how many students in your class have a mask on?" And she said 2. And I said, "How many teachers do you have that are wearing masks?" She goes, "None of my academic teachers, only one encore teacher." Our majority of our community is not being represented. We are the majority, and I was surprised to find out by how much. I think my greatest concern is that this is no longer really a mask situation. This is a parents' rights situation. A couple of years ago, parents were commended for coming to school and being a part of their children's education, having an active role in doing what was right for them and interjecting their voice to see what is best for them being done. And now we're being told, no, your voice needs to stay out of the way. If we don't stand up and stand up clearly now for this situation, what is next? We need to take control and make ourselves clear that we're going to do what we need to do to raise our children the way we see fit. Lastly, let's take masks off the table, and I'm sorry, I know this is probably outreaching and far-reaching from what I should speak of, so I'm going to include it in my last 30 seconds in case I'm cut off. How about we take masks off the table and we look to India and see what they're doing over there? They have 5% of their population, a very large population, that are fully vaccinated. Less than 300 cases in their country active right now. 0 cases in their most populated city. What are they doing right and we're doing wrong? Let's take masks off the table and let's get rid of the disease. Follow the science. I keep hearing follow the science. Maybe it's time we do. Thank you.
Ashley Poe, and then Alina Rotar, and then Amanda Gillen.
Hello, my name is Ashley Poe, and I do live in Knox County. I am actually a Knox County school bus driver. I have been a bus driver since 2018. when I was pregnant with my third child, and I was able to get this job because it was the only one that I could have while having my 3 children with me because no childcare. My son was actually a student at Carnes Elementary. Last year, for the mandate, my husband and I chose to homeschool him because we were not willing to subject our son to this. I actually quit my job in November because I was sick and tired of having to wear a mask and being told that I had to enforce masks on these children. I literally only complied because it was my job. My children are on my bus, and I was told by an assistant vice principal and my contractor that my children, who were not even Knox County School students, had to wear a mask. I will not. I would mask for the sake of my job. I would not make my children mask for the sake of mine. Now, I will admit, the Friday that this came, I had already spoken with my contractor because I had quit. I came back because there was no mask mandate, and I actually did miss driving. But I told him from day one that if any sort of mandate was instituted, I would not comply. I flat out said I would not comply. Now, we are all blindsided by this. Unfortunately, a federal judge overreaching. But last year was indeed remarkably different, as all of this was brand new and the studies were not out. We started and were 8 weeks into school this year when all of this was dropped onto us. Before this mandate, I counted 1 elementary student and only a handful of middle or high school students who routinely wore the masks while on the bus. The good majority that I observed in my capacity as bus driver were not choosing to wear a mask or facial covering. That also was the drivers. Obviously, by now, you have all heard about the segregation and bullying that is happening within the schools, and I'm also addressing what I know of on the school buses. Per Knox County policy, a bus driver is not allowed to deny any student service. Before all of this meant that even if it was a child was presenting problems, disrespect, behavioral, unsafe behavior, we were not allowed to turn them away. If they are standing at that stop, it is our duty to pick them up and safely deliver them to school and let administration deal with it. With the mask, KC policy is that bus drivers are to offer a mask, and if the child refuses, tell the child to sit and let the school address the issue. There have been reports of bus drivers getting to a stop and refusing to transport children due to their not wearing a mask. Before this mandate, there were continuous issues of schools not supporting the bus drivers with problems they were having on their buses. Now it seems as if the administrators are more worried about mask issues than anything else. So there are major inconsistencies with the discipline happening in the school and on the buses. For me, I am now suspended from my job as a Knox County bus driver because I will not comply. It is 100% my decision because I know that's what downtown will say, and I will say it all. We stand for these kids because these kids are way braver.
Thank you. Alina Rothart, Amanda Gillen, and then Jeremy Cecil. Amanda Gillen. Jeremy Cecil. Oh, wait, I think Amanda's here. Is that her coming or no? Okay, I guess not. Okay, Jeremy Cecil.
Thank you. I echo a lot of what these people are saying. And predominantly, I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the children in isolation. We did not agree to this. The board voted down a mask mandate. We signed up for in-person instruction without masks. And then through gross federal overreach, this judge trampled the rights of our children and pulled the rug out from under them by ordering an immediate mask mandate. Some of these children have stood up and continue to stand up for what they believe in. They should not be forced by the federal government to cover their faces. period. I will not even get into the fact that the science behind masking is far from settled, and that most of these common masks state they have either not been tested against COVID-19 or that they are ineffective against any airborne viruses or bacteria. The masks on these children have been tested and shown to harbor lots of viruses and bacteria. We are confusing activity with productivity. To demand that nearly 70,000 people go back to masking is entirely unreasonable. By the way, for a virus, as mentioned tonight, that according to the Knox County Health Department website has a death rate of 0 for children 0 to 17. The hospitalization rate is 0.36%. It would seem that the judge took an axe to a problem that needed a scalpel. There's got to be a better solution to this than a sweeping mandate. Reasonable accommodations are understandable, but it should never be at the cost of infringing upon the rights of other people. These children have stood for what they believe in and have shown more courage than most adults ever will. It has been at a cost. I can say through my own personal experiences and from what I've heard from other parents from schools that none of these children in isolation are receiving any instruction. They're only be given work to complete, and some may receive some assistance. They're having to chase down work, they're being marked absent and having to fight to get that back. I don't know if this is legal. I suppose and hope that you guys are asking. It's definitely wrong. So these children, we need to fight for these children. They need a choice as well. And will their efforts be respected and their rights upheld? Can we find a solution to accommodate their needs? Or will they continue to feel the squeeze of authority becoming tighter each day until they fall back into place? Are we going to encourage freedom or tyranny? I realize this was not in your control, but we do need you to help resolve it. These children need a solution. Thank you.
Angel Jones.
Angel Jones, Knox County. I am a parent of a 4th and 2nd grader in District 2. I am a member of KCS Pass. As I emailed all of you earlier, to the board members who voted to keep your word on the policy that was passed in April that said you'd follow the CDC and APA guidelines, thank you. If the other board members had kept their word, the Knox County School Board would have control over the mask mandate, like exemptions. We should be using multi-level COVID mitigation protocols and adhering to CDC recommendations to help reduce the spread. We were given federal funding for things like air filtration systems for the classrooms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Sylvia Kirby and then Mary Jane Morris. If you'll please state your name and county of residence.
Sylvia Kirby, Knox County. I am here, believe me, I would not like to be here. I am a busy mother of 4 children. 3 of them are special needs children that we adopted out of the foster system. They were born drug addicted. Our son Bo, as you can see in the wheelchair, he is actually a kid that the ADA law should apply to, a kid in a wheelchair with special needs. Currently, he has missed instruction for 8 days because he cannot mask. He had 31 diagnoses when he left the hospital. He spent 100 of 120 days of his first part of his life in the NICU. He was a twin that was born 12 and a half weeks premature that weighed 4.5 pounds because their mother didn't take their insulin correctly. There was 11 drugs in his system. She was drunk when she delivered him. He was born with part of his brain outside of his head that they had to cut off. He's had 7 cranioplasty surgeries. We have taken him to therapy 5 to 7 times a week. for the last 8 years just for him to be strong enough to sit up in school this year. He is being denied an education under the very law that is here to protect him. He is the poster child for the Americans with Disabilities Act. He weighs 40 pounds, and because he has low-tone cerebral palsy and he drools, that would be akin to face waterboarding this poor kid all day, every day. I emailed the principal, and she said, if he cannot mask, he cannot come to school. We emailed Jason Myers. He finally answered back today after a second email from my husband, and he said, can you try a face shield? Well, considering that he has microcephaly, which means his head is too small, his back of his head has had 7 surgeries and looks like it is made out of paper mache. He has low-tone cerebral palsy, so he struggles even to sit up correctly. No, my son cannot wear a face mask. There's 0 accommodations made for him. He should be exempted from any mask mandate all the time. He is being violated on his ADA rights, his rights under his IEP, as well as the Tennessee Constitution. And at 8 days, not only is he missing school, the very first year he could ever even go, but he also misses speech and PT. So you are not only denying him an education, he has been denied services that will help him move along in his diagnosis. He does not just have cerebral palsy, he has a hole in his heart, he only has 1 kidney. The list goes on and on and on. This poor kid has suffered more at the hands of other people already enough in his 8 years of life. Now he is being forced to be harmed by other people that don't know him. It is unfair that those families matter more than my son is against the spirit and the letter of the ADA, and I object to all of this. You guys have the right to nullify his order if it is not a legal order or workable, which it is not. You do not have to comply. My son deserves better.
Thank you. Mary Jane Morris, and then Christina Morales. Is Ms. Morris here? Christina Morales? Please state your name and county of residence.
Christina Morales, Knox County. Hello. I will not mask my child. I will not give an opportunity for staff to try and attempt to go against my parental consent due to any court order. I do not co-parent with the federal government nor the public school board or system. Last year, when everyone required and enforced the masking, I allowed my daughter to attend your public school. She was bullied by bus drivers who made her cry and expressed the different admins throughout the year who did so because she pulled her mask down to breathe. Breathing is the #1 basic human need. It seems as some have forgot the fact we are air-breathing creatures. Also, while I'm on the subject of basic human needs, let's touch the others being affected by this masking. Connection to one another, self-identity. As a fundamental human need, significance is the need to feel that our lives have meaning, that we are important and we have value. Our sense of identity has a huge influence on our sense of significance. We have 2 types of identities, social identity and self-identity, and both of them are crucial to our sense of importance. Also, self-direction, autonomy, freedom, and justice. The need for freedom is the need to be able to exercise choice in all aspects of life and to have no negative restraints on that ability to choose and live. What happens when fundamental needs are not being met? Without connection, love, and belonging, many people become susceptible to loneliness, social anxiety, stress, and clinical depression. Now, my child was attending school to learn. As humans, our communication is 93% nonverbal. Clearly, covering a child's face and a teacher's face with a mask is going to negatively affect the learning and developmental process of a young child. Now, before this year took off, you sent out an email with a no tolerance to bullying. I am disappointed at the lack of action that's being taken because jobs are at stake. All children should be the #1 priority. The things taking place in your schools are a disgrace, and this is going to cause potential damage to students, families, and schools, as you're hearing the stories and witnesses of that. Segregation as one of the policies is causing bullying. The process of telling somebody no twice, segregating, and then waiting until they break to finally get them to put on a mask. What is that showing our children? That their voice and their no means nothing. As a girl and having a daughter, that means a lot, and that is threatening to me. My young children are in the most important years of their life. The first 6 years of influence is what will affect who my child becomes for the rest of their lives. My daughter came home with the worksheet assignment, which had my first grader write, and I assume read out loud. I wasn't there. I am a bad seed. She is a good seed.
Next, we have Shauna Hibben, and then Parker Bartholomew. Hi, please state your name and county of residence.
My name is Shauna Hibben, and I live in Knox County. I want to first thank the 5 board members for voting for us to have the right to choose as parents. I do greatly appreciate that. And now, due to a federal judge's ruling, that right has been taken away from you all and from us. We the people voted for you all. We the people voted for our governor. And that's who gave us the right to choose. Now this has been taken away. By this being taken away, I want to share with you, I had things prepared, but throwing all that away. I want to share with you some things that are happening at our schools that I don't think is okay, and I don't think you will think is okay too. The first day that one of my children went to school and chose not to wear a mask, she takes a daily medication. She has to go to the nurse at 11:30 every day. So she goes up and asks the AD of her school, can I go take my medicine? And he said, no, because you don't have a mask on. She said, but I have to take my medicine. He said, if you will take one of these masks and put it on, then you can go take your medicine. Otherwise, you cannot. So she put the mask on and she went and took her medicine. It's the only time she has put a mask on since this started. Her sister, who has an autoimmune disorder, which causes severe skin issues because of the mask last year that she did wear, has permanent scarring on her face. We told our girls, we will never make you wear a mask again. And we told them, it is your choice. And if you don't want to wear this mask to school, we will stand up and support you. Because this is your choice. This is your body. Last year, you harmed your face because of this. Now, in the isolation room, they've put up paper on every outside window and on the doors so that nobody can see in and they can't see out. They're not allowed to stand up. They're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to help each other. But all the other students, every time the bell rings, they get to walk around for 10 minutes. They get to talk to each other. They get to use their cell phones. They have social interaction. They're getting no instruction from teachers, so why can't they at least help each other within this isolation room? I implore you all to put a precedent down for all of these schools of equal treatment of these children, because it is not happening, and what is happening is cruel. It is cruel. Thank you very much.
Parker Bartholomew, and then Naomi Elliott. Please state your name and county of residence.
Parker Bartholomew, Knoxville, Tennessee. You all either must believe that we're just making all this stuff up, or it's really happening. If we can assume for a minute that it's really happening, then you have to do something. I went up to Greenville, Tennessee, to the court to get the transcript. When I walked in the courthouse, you know what Judge Greer wasn't enforcing? A mask mandate. In the courthouse. Y'all sit here and say you're scared that you're going to go to jail. I'll tell you right now, resign, I'll take your spot, and I'll go to jail. Right now, any one of you, I'll gladly do it. And then I'll immediately go on a hunger strike. That's what we need to be teaching our kids. I have 2 children in Knox County schools, one at Rocky Hill and one at Bearden Middle. Since September 28th, I've had one question that I've tried to get an answer to. I spoke with both principals at the schools, the secretary for the school board, the secretary for the superintendent, the ombudsperson, and I'm sorry, I probably didn't pronounce that right, and the law department. In each interaction, I was told that they could not or would not answer me and directed me to somebody else in that chain. For 8 days, this has happened. Yesterday, I was told by the ombudsperson that the superintendent would be making an announcement today to answer this one question. Most mentioned that the people in this room, meaning the school board, the superintendent, or the law department, could provide an answer. And my one question, and this is not a rhetorical question, will my children, or any of the children, receive instruction in isolation? Please let the record show that no one from Knox County Schools was willing to answer that question. Your silence on this, there's one word for it, and it's abomination.
Naomi Elliott, and then Thomas Godsey. Please state your name and county of residence.
Naomi Elliott, Knox County, Tennessee. And what was he just saying about an abomination? Like maybe the abomination of desolation or something? I mean, that's kind of what y'all are doing by not acting, is making our children and our community desolate. Whatever happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? You keep hearing how all these children are not only getting their rights infringed on with their education and equality, their constitutional rights, their civil rights, and their human rights, more importantly. And what are we doing about it? What are y'all doing? The pursuit of happiness, well, dopamine is the happiness chemical. So no wonder there's an increase in anxiety and depression because of this board's activities and inactivities. You're all responsible. I thought the opposite of love was hate. No, I was wrong, because if you trust the science, the opposite of love is fear. And all this fear-mongering that happened last year and this year, it needs to stop. Us as human beings are meant to connect with each other. Are all of these policies an attack on children and families and human beings and the connections that we have that make us more humanitarian and more compassionate? And you think, oh, well, it's not hurting them, it's helping them, but you don't know what it's doing to their little brains because you're altering the hormones with all of these policies. We do not consent. And besides all these ADA violations, what about freedom of religion? We, the people, have had enough. It wasn't right for you to tell me that you think you know what my religious beliefs are better than I do. And I'll say it again. The last time I checked, it was a subjective matter, not objective. And And are we going to keep following the experts who keep profiting off of all this madness? One of the UT faculty members, his father has been in the human genetical engineering research industry for decades, and we get this board of health all made up of mostly UT people. Where are the FBI? They're too busy coming after parents trying to protect their children than coming after the tyrants. Love is the best thing, but you know what? Let tyrants fear. Let tyrants fear. Look at some Ronald Reagan quotes. They're really good. I didn't realize what a great speaker he is, but this medical tyranny needs to end. It's a genocide. And the Nobel Prize winner last year for 2020, she's involved in genetical engineering too with CRISPR, and she says the future is designer babies and designer humans. So where's the diversity going to be? Oh, maybe we can help people with diseases and disabilities. Maybe that's a good motive, a better one than profit and position because of coercion, which is racketeering. Yeah, look it up. I'll be happy to send you any information I have on these discoveries. It's amazing what you can find when you dig a little deeper.
Logan Taylor. Okay. Logan Taylor. Please state your name and county of residence.
Logan Taylor of Knox County. Good evening, Superintendent Thomas and board members. I am Logan Taylor, a Halls High School junior standing before you again. When I left here in August, I had a smile and a feeling of relief, believing that our school year was going to be a great one. And honestly, for 7 weeks, things were really going great, until Friday, September 24th, when everything changed. I'm not going to talk about masks, but I will say that I chose not to wear one to school for the past 8 days. And as a result of my choice, I've spent these 8 days in an isolation room inside of my school of 1,200 plus students. There are many things that have troubled me during these days, but I just want to share a few of them. The attitude and treatment by some of the teachers has been deeply upsetting. Some told me that what I was doing was insignificant and that this judge doesn't care anything about me, which in itself is probably true. I mean, some have been very unkind in the words and actions that they have said to me. I understand that supervising the isolation room is not fun for them, but it is certainly not fun for me either, okay? Even if these teachers disagree with my choice, belittling and degrading me for it is unnecessary. With respects to meals, we have been taken as a group to the, mind you, empty cafeteria to pick up a lunch, but had to return to the isolation room to eat it. Space has been an issue for the isolation kids from day one. Yesterday, we moved through 4 different rooms before we were even settled in by noon. But by far, my greatest concern has been that my right to an education seems to have just gone out the window, apparently. You see, I have sat in the isolation room most of this time with 0 instruction and little or no work to provide me on Canvas. A couple of teachers have given me paper assignments, but I have not been able to take them to my teachers, and only today did an isolation room supervisor offer to take my work to my classroom teachers for me. Only one teacher, my choir teacher, has allowed me to participate in class because she chose to hold classes outside. I will finish by saying this. Friday will be my last day as a KCS student. You see, I believe that I have a right to a public education just as much as every other student in Knox County. But I do not see anyone standing up for me or these other students. My family and I have reached out for help about what will happen to me in my education, and no one has said, this is the plan for you, Logan. This is the plan we have to meet your educational needs as you prepare for your senior year. What is sad is that only after my parents informed my guidance counselor and teachers today that I was leaving, did anyone seem concerned that I had not been in class or that my grades were slipping. And this is after my family and I emailed repeatedly for help. I am a good student, and I have been privileged to be a member of the Halls High School Madrigals. If I am willing to sacrifice my passion for singing and the rest of my high school experience to ensure that I receive an education by leaving KCS, what are you willing to sacrifice?
And then Marlene Knapp. Lily Hutchison. Is Lily here? Marlene Knapp. Marlene, and then next is Tyrell Douglas. Please state your name and county of residence.
Yes, hello, my name is Marlene Knabb, and I reside in Knox County. I have 2 children at KCS. Currently, one of my children has decided to wear a mask so she can continue participating in school and continue with her grades. She's in high school, and she's looking to her future, and she has made that choice for herself because she doesn't want to jeopardize her future. My son, on the other hand, is in middle school, and he is standing up for his rights. He has been in isolation most days since the start of this mandate. His grades are slipping. This is an honors student. He has all honors classes. He's always received excellent grades, and his grades are slipping. Why? Because this board, the school system has failed him. They've failed him, you have failed him, you failed so many kids. Kids in isolation are not getting their constitutional right to an education. I know you can't do anything about this order from this judge and its unreasonableness, but you can change how you are dealing with these kids that do not wish to mask. You can implement some sort of educational plan for these kids. My son today, I received a notification from the school system saying that one of his grades was below the expected, below the expectation that I set for him. And I asked him what happened, and he said, "Mom, I did the best I could by teaching myself because I have not gotten an education." That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for my son, it's unacceptable for every single one of these kids. You have a duty to instruct my son and every single child at Knox County Schools, and you're failing. And I need this to be fixed, and I need it to be fixed very quickly. I'm not gonna keep reiterating mask mandates and whatnot. I understand that's not within your purview. I understand that you don't have the right to change that, but you do have the right to change how you are choosing to implement this. Fix this and educate our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyrell Douglas, and then Christine Parker. Is Mr. Douglas here?
Many folks have mentioned a lot of things that I've got in here, but I'm going to say it again. A couple of parents have told me that children who are either unable or chose to exercise their inalienable right to bodily autonomy to wear a mask are not being taught while they're in school. Knox County schools and teachers are being paid to teach the kids. It is appalling that is happening. The reason these kids go to school is to be given a proper education. Knox County schools have abandoned their primary responsibility. This is without a question absolutely unacceptable. Furthermore, the fact that their children are being punished with detention without education for exercising their 14th Amendment right to choose not to wear a mask is again unacceptable. Even if these kids have done something to warrant detention, does not negate your responsibility to provide an education. There's no reason these kids should be getting zeros on their classes. The recent decision by a judge to stay the executive order to opt out from wearing a mask has absolutely no bearing on whether these kids get to choose to wear a mask or not and still get an education, because Governor Lee's opt-out mandate is totally unconstitutional. We have a 14th Amendment right to bodily autonomy, inalienable. Since when do we have to ask permission to exercise an inalienable God-given right listed in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution? It is imperative that this right not be violated. Many of these kids are susceptible to illness, and these kids are smart. They've seen the lab culture test that has recently been done that found streptococcal pneumonia. Let me list this out. Mycobacterium tuberculosis, meningitis, Neisseria, acanthamoeba, that's a parasite, polyphaga, E. coli, Staphylococcus aureus, and a deadly Staphylococcus pyogenes, serotype M3. My granddaughter read on the box of masks does not prevent the spread of coronavirus. So I'm sure these other kids can read and do math and put 2 and 2 together. So contrary to common belief, masks cause illness. They do not protect the wearer. They do not protect others around. Kids know this. Stop punishing them for not wanting to get sick and teach these kids their full curriculum while in school, regardless of your policy. Just do your job.
Christine Parker, and then Karen Appleby.
Hello, my name is Christine Parker. I'm in Knox District 5. I think we can all agree that there are issues with the current situation with masks. Due to the original inaction by the board to approve adequate COVID measures, there are now children who are medically cannot wear masks that cannot attend school. I feel for these children and their parents. There are also a large number of children, including my child, who have contracted COVID and have spread it to their families and their community. Masks are only one part of the solution. The bigger issue is the school board's decision to take contact tracing away from school nurses. My child woke up with a runny nose on Sunday, August 22nd. Thinking it was allergies, I gave her some Zyrtec, and she went to school on Monday. Monday night, I just happened to check Facebook, and I found out that multiple children from her class were positive. We did an at-home test the next morning and a PCR later that day. Both were positive. No one ever called me to tell me that she was a close contact, and the health department did not contact us for her contacts until 9 days after her test. She was wearing a mask, but it upsets me about how many kids she may have affected that Monday she was at school. How many families might have become sick, missed work, or ended up in the hospital because I didn't know that we needed to quarantine. I originally wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to the process broke down due to the volume of cases that were happening at the time that my daughter was ill. But even now, when the cases are seeming to fall and there's a lot less burden on the system, there's parents online that are sharing the same experiences and the information that the schools are not sharing this information with the health department as quickly as needed. Given the importance of contact tracing to stopping the spread, I ask you to allow school nurses to return to contact tracing in the school like was done last year. The faster we stop the spread in our community, the faster, hopefully the faster we can get back to normal. Thank you for your time.
Karen Appleby, and then Scott Appleby.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Karen Appleby. I'm a resident of Knox County, and I have 2 girls in Knox County schools. Would have never thought I'd be here holding this up, asking, please educate my child, because they've been in segregation since this all started. I strongly oppose the mask mandate given by Judge Greer, who's obviously not a doctor and/or has limited knowledge, and at best regarding efficacy or ADA accommodations. Otherwise, he would not have put this mandate in place. However, I have grave concerns and strongly disagree with how you guys have implemented this order. I don't understand who in here goes, hey guys, let's take these kids who aren't going to wear a mask and put them in a room by themselves. We're not going to teach them anymore. Where in any of your brains did that say, oh, that's a really good idea? Our kids deserve this. I mean, sit with that, think with that. They go into these rooms, they're not given instruction. My children are blessed compared to several others where they're not given their work. My kids so far have been counted, their attendance is counted while they've been there. There's no guidance, no support. Many of these kids I've heard have been treated like outcasts, prisoners, like they're not worthy of an education unless they put this thing on their face, which absolutely does not work, as we know. Ironically, I looked up the Tennessee Department of Correctional Education System, which is approved by you guys, because I'm like, well, what rights do these people have? What rights do our felons have in jail? Let me read you. Tennessee Department of Corrections, TDOC, educational system is approved by you guys. TDOC School District's adult education program includes 3 paths, and it goes on to explain those paths. Exemplary instructions are led by a team of dedicated, highly qualified instructors who hold valid Tennessee teacher's license, some of who are certified and licensed by the National Center for Construction Education and National Research. Why do felons and people in jail get an education and our children do not? I find it disgusting, personally, and deplorable as board members, as parents, as educators, and just plain old human beings looking at these children and going, I'm not going to educate you. Nope, you won't put this on your face. You don't deserve an education. I think that those of you who think this mandate is reasonable and that these kids are being treated fairly or successfully and that you guys are doing a great job in educating our students should immediately step down, including you, Mr. Thomas. In your document of your bibliography on you, it says that there's 3 non-negotiable priorities, including enhancing student.
Thank you.
3 priorities.
And then William Wilson. Please state your name and county of residence.
Scott Appleby, Knox County. As I stood here this evening, I watched you all celebrate. So I was a combat veteran. The only celebration I got was saving a life on the combat field and returning home to my family. I'm a husband, father of 3 daughters, college student, combat veteran, prior federal law enforcement officer, and I volunteered for all those positions. And I have a duty to serve in all those positions. As you all have volunteered for this and have a duty to educate our children. We, the people, elected you to these positions and entrusted you with the duty and educational care of our children. Yet today our children are segregated from their fellow classmates and are being used as pawns in this political game as if their education or life has no value. They are being educationally neglected. Did y'all hear it? Tonight my time has been cut to 3 minutes, so I'll keep it short and give you 2 options. Find a classroom or have the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency or the Tennessee National Guard bring in a trailer. Find volunteer teachers who will educate our children instead of neglecting them. I don't care about the judge's order or opinion. This is our right, and you have the duty to educate our children rather than neglect them by shoving a computer at them or some papers that say, here, educate yourself. We lost 7 men fighting in Iraq who volunteered and took it seriously to ensure our freedoms and choices for our future. So I demand you take our children's education no less seriously because they are our future. I will never comply with a mask. I have not worn one yet. I will never get a COVID shot. That is my choice, and I'll take it to the death, and I will defend it under our Constitution to my death. Please help us. Thank you.
William Wilson. Please state your name and county of residence.
Yeah, my name is William Wilson.
I live in Knox County. I have a student in District 8. My son also has a disability, and he has zero problem wearing a mask, just so you know. During this month of September of this year, 140 people died in Knox County from COVID. I can't talk while they're heckling from the background. Can I get back my 20 seconds?
I didn't get my son.
Please.
Speaking about my son.
The clock is
Please
ticking.
let our speaker finish.
All right. 140 people have died in Knox County in September alone from COVID. The flu kills 120 people in a year in Knox County. This is not made up. This is facts from the Knox County Health Department and Tennessee Health Department. The ultimate loss of rights is the loss of life. Wearing a mask does not compare to losing a loved one or losing your life. Last year, most school board meetings had no speakers at public forum. This year, there have been hundreds of speakers, but in 2021, a very small group of people have actually been here over and over and over again. You know who they are. It gives the appearance that they're a majority, but they're not. Less than 1% of kids refuse to wear masks. And they wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been such a political issue. This is a minority. They're fueled by misinformation and by politics. There is not a shred of evidence that masks harm children or adults. There is not. Please do not allow people to speak over me.
Please do not interrupt.
There's not a shred of evidence that they harm children or adults. There are at least 50 studies since the start of this pandemic that show that wearing masks prevent the spread of COVID or slow it down, which makes it manageable. So this is a divisive political issue. The format of these meetings don't make it easy for us to have discussions. Instead, we are on sides and we're shouting at each other. There are valid concerns about masks, and unfortunately, it's hard to have those discussions about what are the valid concerns, how do we address the valid concerns when it's this side or this side. It is totally possible to make a decision that keeps the majority of people safe while also listening to those valid concerns from the other side. We trust you as elected officials to make the right decisions, to research for yourself, and to discern the truth, science, versus misinformation and conspiracy theories and politics. That's your job. I wish you all had done it before the judge had to get involved. Things would have actually been a lot better, and you'd have the power to address some of these concerns that people have brought before us today, which are valid. That's all I've got for today. Good luck.
My child is being harmed by this. My child is being harmed by this.
Stacy Gruen. Stacy Gruen. And then Skylar Gruen. Please. Please state your name and county residence.
Hi, my name is Stacy Gruen, and I'm a resident of Knox County. I have 4 kids who are students at Farragut High, middle, intermediate, and primary. I am here to talk about the protests happening in our schools. For over a week, my child has been afraid to walk the path to school. After she FaceTimed me during one of her walks, I was in disbelief to see a group of anti-mask protesters gathered outside her school doors. From then on, I have walked with her every day. Here are a few of the things I have seen. I have seen a group of adults who take up most of the sidewalk and walk as if they are in their own parade, while they carry signs that mock our kids. I have seen children walking in the grass and not on the sidewalk to avoid the protesters. I watched 2 kids step into traffic to avoid them, one on a main road and one in the drop-off line. I have seen the protesters gather as a group twice a day to say the pledge while holding huge flags that block most of the entrance to the schools. I believe in the right to peacefully protest.
Please don't interrupt.
But there are laws and rules that govern when and where these protests can happen. And if they are not followed, people can be arrested. I believe that these protests should not be allowed while our children are present on school grounds. I also believe walking your child to school with a group of people who are carrying signs is not a normal walk to school. It is a political protest. And how do I know the difference? Because I have seen many parents this week, like myself, who can walk their kids to school without carrying a sign. If KCS continues to allow anti-mask protests on school grounds, you are setting a precedent and will be required to allow all future protests from any political or special interest group. You are officially making our schools into protest zones. Is that what we really want? Over the years, our schools have found many ways to protect our kids. We are buzzed into buildings. We show our ID when asked. Our school staff wear ID tags. The doors have locks and alarms, and our kids have drills for every horrible scenario imaginable. So why can't we make their schools safe from protest? They are children. They cannot vote, and they don't have a say in our political process. They just want to learn and have fun with their friends. Instead, they are learning by your actions and your inactions that bullying is actually okay, as long as it is a parent who is walking their child to school. It doesn't matter how they feel about it, because they are just kids. School zones should not be protest zones. Please put a policy in place that does not allow protests at our schools. Thank you for your time.
Skylar Gruen and then Brent Hunter. Please state your name and county of residence.
Hi, my name is Skylar Gruen. I live in Knox County, and I am a student at Farragut Middle School. I am here to talk about the anti-mask protests that are happening every day at my school. My sister drives me to school, and I walk from the high school parking lot to the middle school. For over a week, I've had to be on my phone with my mom as I walk past the protesters. There are about 40 people, some with kids, and many without. They crowd together and walk on school property and stand by the office entrance. They've even gotten to the point where they're standing in front of the student entrance, and I have no choice but to walk next to them to get inside. It is terrifying. The police officers just stand there with the doors open. They don't make me feel safe, even though that is their job. As a kid, when the protesters hold up their signs, I know I can't do anything, and I know I have no power over the situation. I feel scared because I feel as if I am going to be hurt physically by them, or that they are going to yell at me or video me without my permission. These protesters make me and my friends feel uncomfortable. After I walk through the school doors, my nerves from seeing the protesters cause me to feel shaky, and it sometimes takes me the whole first period to calm down. They hold up signs like "Good little sheep, wear their mask," and "Save your mask for Halloween." These signs make me feel frustrated because they are comparing us to animals that are simple-minded, and they are assuming that we aren't able to think for ourselves. I also feel like this is dividing our school because it is in our face every day, whether you are pro-mask or anti-mask, which is frustrating because I just want to have a peaceful day at school and not have to worry about my safety. Will I ever feel safe at my school again? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brent Hunter and then Matthew Perkins.
My name is Brent Hunter. I'm a resident of Knox County. I have 7 kids. 5 are in Knox County schools. I have 3 at Bricky Elementary, where they have been told, even though they've said no, they are told they have got to absolutely wear masks. I've got 2 at Powell High School who have been told that they will be suspended if they do not wear masks. In case you didn't know, I absolutely object against this unconstitutional mandate and the segregation of our students. You say that your hands are tied with this mandate. You feel that you have to comply, but please know that we do not have to. You say something has to be done about students who don't want to comply to wear these masks. You say they need to be separated, segregated from their classmates. But can someone please answer this question? Why are students being denied an education and instruction? Why are students not being allowed to ask anyone questions? They're stuck in an isolated area. They've been given busy work and pretty much told to sit down and shut up. You say that some sort of discipline is in order for noncompliance. So what can that look like? Examples could be cutting out the students' extracurricular activities like sports and clubs. If scholarships are on the line, maybe that would persuade student athletes to comply. Or maybe there are field trips coming up, trips to the zoo, trips to concerts, or trips to any other special place for these kids. Those that don't comply cannot attend these activities. Or any special activities at the school like safety patrol. But hear me when I say this, what cannot happen is any Knox County school going against Article 11, Section 12 of the Tennessee Constitution by denying these kids their right to free education, void of discrimination. What is the board going to do to ensure that the right of an education for non-compliant students is not being denied? If a student shows up wanting an education, they are to be counted present and given the opportunity to learn, just like every other child there. And I will close in saying this. I am asking this board to vote to stand strong, act in civil disobedience, and reject the ruling given by Judge Greer. If all of us are willing to fight for these students, it's about time that you show you're willing to do the exact same thing. Thank you.
Matthew Perkins, and then Adam Miller. Please state your name and county of residence.
Matthew Perkins, Knox County. It's been some great speeches tonight, so I don't have too much to say. I just want to put it on record. What's going on and deteriorating in the schools rapidly. My son, very obedient child, does not want to wear a mask, suffers from anxiety. Luckily, he got it from mom and dad. And the teachers are starting to ratchet up the pressure. That's uncalled for, unnecessary, unacceptable. My daughter, by the way, born 12 weeks early, premature, grade 4 brain bleed for any doctors in the house. All accounts, she shouldn't be here. She's here live and kicking. She loves school. I gotta go home now and try to console her because there's pictures being posted of Spirit Day or whatever it was today in 4th grade where students were taking pictures with their t-shirts. Not even a message to her, because she's in isolation, about the opportunity to maybe comply, wear a mask so she can get that picture taken. But instead, nothing. And I have another picture of another 4th grade class where they all have their masks off. So what's the deal with that? It's getting really tiring to see this. I actually moved my family down from Illinois where we led a very fantastic life, but very under the thumb of the government. And I thought we followed the school district here. We followed them for a year before we made this decision. We came down here for a better life, for freedom of choice. And that choice has been taken away. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I could take them out of school. So I believe there's a financial benefit for me keeping the kids in the school from my understanding and my limited reading I've done so far. But I'll be more than happy to take them out of Knox County School. No qualms at all. There's homeschooling that is coming up as being a great option. There's also a lot of private schools with no mask policy. So I'm here to fight verbally right now with everybody else who says this is ridiculous, but I'll throw in that towel and I'll put my kids in private school in a heartbeat. So start making some decisions. They might be tough, they might be illegal, but you know what? This is freedom here, and we are hurting our children. End of story.
Thank you. Adam Miller, and then Jennifer Quinley.
My name is Adam Miller, Knox County. I came here with 3 really full minutes of stuff typed out about why I believe that this injunction is illegal and it is a violation of federal law per the ADA. And other people have discussed some of those things tonight, and I've decided to switch gears, and I'm not going to get into all that. First of all of you make me proud to be a Tennessean. Thank you for all of your stories, and thank you for standing up for liberty. Thank all of you. I also moved here recently, this year, from the West Coast. I grew up in North Carolina, but I moved back for many of the same reasons I've heard tonight, specifically to East Tennessee, because I believe that liberty is valued here and that the Constitution is valued here, and I wanted to get my family back. And we got here. I have a kindergartner in Farragut Primary. I walked in to a parent orientation and was very proud to see "In God We Trust" on the wall, right there, fearlessly, and that they start their day with the Pledge of Allegiance. That doesn't happen everywhere. Thank you for that, Tennessee. It's heartbreaking now to walk up to that school every day and see small children with their faces covered, and it does impact them, and it will impact them for their lives. Some of the things I had typed out here are numerous psychology studies that span decades of research, very unambiguously stating that children do need to read people's facial expressions. It's critical for healthy social and emotional development, and you're depriving children for their lives. I would like to also state right now that I will respect your wishes as a board to not address any of you personally, but I want to tell you as a board that one of you are being extremely rude right now, staring at nothing but your lap while people stand up here and pour their hearts out about their children. How dare you? How dare you? What I wanted to say before I left is I would request you as the board, please provide us as parents and as citizens a place we can go to access information. I think a lot of us may feel isolated. I think that we would really appreciate it as citizens of the community to have a place on the board website where we can go see what you're doing, where you're going with this, and how you're fighting for us. Thank you.
Jennifer Quinley, and then Amanda Collins. Please state your name and county of residence.
Hello. Hello, my name is Jennifer Quinley, and I'm a Knox County parent. I'm also a physician, and I've been an advocate for masks all along. However, I've heard so many valid stories that definitely have softened my opinion toward that tonight, because above all, I am an American, and I do believe in certain liberties, and I believe that our country is a great country and it's built on that. And right now, you all are in an impossible situation because you're expected to comply with a federal judge's order that is very narrow in scope. I will admit that as a physician, it's very narrow. Because if you don't, you'll be in contempt of court. However, you have families, and I think all of us are in this room because we care deeply about our country, we care deeply about our children, and hearing stories where there is selective enforcement of these policies is not okay. Children should never be intimidated or bullied by any grown adult, either a protester or by a person in a position of authority in their schools. So I come to you tonight after having attended the funeral of a friend's son who died of COVID, and he was a victim of misinformation. So he was 36, and he has left behind a grieving little boy who has lost his father. And again, it's an impossible situation because no one knows what to believe. However, when new scientific evidence is generated, you have an obligation, I as a physician have an obligation to review it without bias and educate myself about its relevance. And I think if you're in a position of leadership, you need to do the same. There have been some studies saying that masks can mitigate transmission within schools. And keep in mind, a lot of this data could not have been effectively generated because either at some point kids were not in person instruction or we didn't have the Delta variant. But when you look at this fall in particular, there have been studies that showed that 8.4% of schools, of the outbreaks that were in schools with early, like from the gate, requirements for masks, that were 8.4, I can't even talk, 8.4% of the outbreaks, whereas 56% of the outbreaks occurred in schools that had no mask mandates. So there's clearly a difference in how it can mitigate transmission of the disease. Schools without mask requirements were 3.5 times more likely to have outbreaks compared to schools with requirements when they looked at confounding variables in a separate study. And certainly within the first 8 weeks of school, Tennessee was in the lead. We led the country in outbreaks, and it's just not okay. Schools do have the right to restrict behaviors. That has legal precedent to do so. Liberty cannot be restricted except in certain situations where there's endangering other people. And so even our founding fathers listed life before liberty when they did the Declaration of Independence. Thank you.
Amanda Collins and Linda Arnold. Is Miss Collins here? Amanda Collins. Linda Arnold. Lisa Moon. Kim Sprague. Randy Jones. Patty King. Oh, Randy. So Randy Jones, and then Patty King, and then Paul Hibben. Please state your name and county of residence.
Hi, my name is Randy Jones, and I live in Knox County. I have a junior at Farragut, and I am the grandmother of Alec. So I believe that I'm a nurse, and I believe that everyone that can wear a mask should wear a mask to school, although I do believe that schools have to uphold exemptions for those that are unable to wear masks. And I can tell you that Caitlin and I disagree on this, and there have been some very heated discussions between us. Over the last few weeks, or over the last week and a half, we have been asked several times why Alec just doesn't stay home and be homeschooled. And the answer to that is because of Alec's learning disability. Homeschooling is not what is in his best interest. His IEP team has determined that his learning needs to be done in a classroom because right now what he needs to learn is how to be a student. He's not ready to learn how to write his name or that 1 + 1 = 2 like a traditional student. He needs to learn how to sit at a desk, listen to teachers, and interact with his peers. Those are the goals that his IEP team set up, and for him, those can't be learned virtually. But we are not just here to talk about Alec. There are other students like him that need to be in the classroom. Caitlin also brought up the point that these students' IEPs are federally protected, and right now they are not being met. So I ask, on one hand, you've got the judge's mandate that in essence is preventing these students from going to school, therefore violating their IEPs, and on the other hand, the federal law protecting their IEP. How is it that you're choosing one to follow? So if not following either of them are violations, and one excludes students and one improves students, why not pick the one that is better for the students? The ones that's better for the children that you're supposed to be serving. Since you have a choice, why not choose the children? I don't discount that you're in an impossible situation. I don't ignore the fact that you are dealing with the educational needs for 60,000 students. I don't know the number of how many of those students have a learning or mental disability. I'm going to throw out a number, I'd say 50,000 or 5,000. So in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about choosing what's best for 55,000 over 5. So then ultimately what are we asking you to do? We're asking you to immediately follow last year's mask mandate with the exemption clause that you used then, or even adopt the exemption clause that the plaintiffs in the lawsuit asked for in their response letter. Something that will allow the students that are unable to or will not wear a mask because of a disability to attend classes and follow their IEPs as written. All we're asking is that you start leaving those behind, not leaving those children like Alec behind and forgetting them.
Patty King, and then Paul Hibben. Hi, please state your name and county of residence.
Patty King, Knox County. I was going to address the isolation rooms, but something has just come to my attention that has totally pissed me off. One of the students that spoke here tonight has been called in one of the other groups an entitled brat, okay? This is bullying. We need to end all the bullying. The other side is saying that we're bullying these people. We are not. We are peacefully protesting a mask mandate that should not be in place. It's not right for our students to have to choose to leave school or be in isolation, okay? These kids have the right to learn. As many of you know, I am a small business owner that teaches music privately, okay? These kids are my students, my husband's students, another teacher's students, okay? These kids have come to these lessons. We're virtual right now, but they've been virtually crying to us because they are not getting the education they need. These parents are crying because they're not getting the education. We've got so many parents pulling kids out to homeschool in my group that I'm part of, okay, because of this mandate. This mandate, yes, I know you guys have no say over that. I understand that. But you do have say in what happens in these isolation rooms. These students are not getting work. They're being threatened to be arrested at South Doyle High School. Come on now. That needs to stop. That needs to stop, okay? These kids are fighting for their freedom that has been promised to them by our Constitution. Thank you.
Paul Hibben. Please state your name and county of residence.
My name is Paul Hibben. I'm a resident of Knox County. I have children in the Gibbs High School. I'd like to start by saying I appreciate the governor and the Board of Education for at least giving us or attempting to give us the right to choose. This federal judge's mandate is now causing irreparable harm to a litany of other students with disabilities, which is direct violation of the American with Disabilities Act. This lawsuit and decision was nothing more than a ploy by the plaintiffs who only care about themselves and their children with their disabilities. It is clear because no other disabilities are included. And if that's not unlawful, I don't know what is. And you know it. It's an unlawful catch-22 situation that this judge has put the Board of Education in. There's no doubt about it. You cannot comply with the mandate and comply with the American with Disabilities Act. It's impossible, and you all know it. That's what we're all here about. So why don't you do something about it? Stand up.
Amen.
Stand up and tell them this is not right. We cannot do both. So why are you choosing? She just said, you got to choose one or the other. Why are you choosing the judge? It took Congress, an entire Congress, to pass the ADA. Yet one judge is telling you what he thinks you should use out of the ADA. It's horse pucky, all right? And I think everybody here knows it. So I implore you to do something. Do the right thing. Somebody step up and say, this isn't right. Thank you.
concludes public forum. I think we had a motion to add board forum by our student representative, Mr. Jen, if you want to go first.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I just wanted to speak to a person recently emailed me to ask me to speak about the Tennessee Promise Scholarship for seniors in particular who are applying to college. This is a great opportunity for our seniors to receive scholarship money so that they can attain the education that they need, help them succeed in their future. And in conjunction with that, I would also like to say that the FAFSA opened up a few days ago, and that is something that seniors can fill out that will help them receive the financial aid they need for post-secondary education. So I just want to put that out there and remind families and students that these opportunities are out there for your child, those students, to get the money they need to achieve their goals in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Owen?
I'll be brief. This weekend on Saturday, Fulton High School alumni dedicated 2 monuments to veterans of foreign wars. One was to 7 classmates who were fallen during the Vietnam War, and the other is to all Fulton veterans. And I encourage people to drop by and see those 2 monuments. They are in front of the auditorium side. Thank you.
Mr. Watson? Ms. Babb?
I'll just say that I hope everybody has a good fall break, and also that it is National Principals Month, and I appreciate everything that our principals are doing in the schools right now.
Ms. Horn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming to share your stories. And please understand that the format of public forum we don't interact with speakers, but we do hear you, and we appreciate you coming to share your stories. And we've certainly heard some disturbing things tonight, and so I appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Ms. Emerson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also just want to thank all the parents that spoke tonight. I'm sorry, I'm a parent myself. I really appreciate that you took the time to come to advocate for your children and to exercise your right for free speech. Thank you. I promised that I would be a voice for parents, and I believe that each family has the right to make that decision for their own children. I've been working with the county attorneys, and I believe there's a lot more that we can do. And I want you to know that I will never stop fighting for the parents and children of Knox County.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Bound?
Thank you. I too want to echo thank you to the people who came to speak. And knowing we had so many tonight, I prepared some remarks and I wanted to share them. We have heard from a large number of passionate parents who are hurting, watching their children suffer. People always say there is nothing like an angry mama bear protecting her cubs. And I personally can speak to the declining mental and physical health of my own grandchild with this mask mandate. And I can't fix it for her. I have been an educator for 50 years, so it is both tragic and frustrating for me that this past week I have seen firsthand fellow educators and administrators going beyond the mandated policy from last year and being both petty, punitive, and cruel to our students. Now, on a positive note, I have seen firsthand educators that chose to educate all children with kindness and love, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. Lastly, perhaps the most disappointing and tragic thing to me in all of this is the individuals over the past few years that were the loudest claiming they would fight for public education. And they did. But those same people are now destroying the very thing that they claim to fight for, and it's apparent to me that they aren't for all students. Thank you for your attention, and with that, I will end by saying freedom is never free. Good night.
And I would just like to thank our speakers as well. And I did like the suggestion one had with having a place to go online to ask some of these questions. I know we all get a lot of emails, And the superintendent gets a lot of emails, so it'd be nice to have someone that could monitor that and answer, because there isn't a lot of consistency, obviously, throughout the district, and we definitely need to work on that and help fix that. So I would love to see something like that, where parents could go and get quick answers for some of these things. All right, and meeting is adjourned.